and Future Film Labs presenter Matt Ajan.
Everyone sit, come on, guys. This is the part you're supposed to go, woo! Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? Is that how people that are doing good sound? How's everyone doing? Okay, amazing. Just a quick, I can't actually see, but a quick question. Who's actually been to a Future Films Lab before? So just raise your hand. Okay, I think I see about every hand is raised, or I'm just lying because, you know, you guys are great hand raisers. But today we're going to be doing an amazing event, and it's all going to be about doing films for greater good. So we've got an amazing panel today. We've got some films to show by some amazing directors and filmmakers, and it's going to be a great experience. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to get involved. And we've also got an amazing opportunity to win a competition from our headline sponsor. Can we get a little, actually, kick around the floor? Bit of a, come on, guys. Some noise. Is that all the noise? Come on. There's about 200 people in here. We can make some more noise than that. But you can win an amazing hard drive from our headline sponsor. If you just look to the right, look how beautiful that hard drive is. That's it. That's it into the light.
That is a Lacey.
The Lacey.
1 terabyte rugged mini.
You hear that? Very rugged.
Very
not just a mini.
specific. Do you see what I mean? Excellent digital storage for all of your filmmaking needs.
And it's orange as well, yeah? Don't miss that part out. Cool. Yes, it's rugged as well. And also, if you want to come to the next event, there's a special promotion at reception where you can have the opportunity to get a special discount. So make sure you take the opportunity to use that. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our amazing panelists for today. Can we have a bit of noise for them, please? So we're just going to have a conversation, and at any point during this session, if you've got any questions, we're going to ask some questions after, but if you've got a burning question, feel free to ask. Yeah, I'll come in. Get cozy. I don't know. Hello. Is this work? Testing. Okay, I guess I'm going to use this for now. Testing.
Can you hear us?
Can everyone hear us?
It's not very big, is it? I'm sure. Can you hear us at the back?
So, hello, everyone. Well, we've got our amazing panelists today. They both do amazing things, and I'm just going to introduce them, and they can have the opportunity to introduce themselves as well. So we've got Deborah, who's the founder of ADCAN. This is the part where you guys give a round of applause. And also we've got Esrael, who's an amazing filmmaker. He's worked on amazing campaigns and amazing films. So just going to give them the opportunity to introduce themselves and tell a bit about themselves as well.
I might go mic-less if that's all right. Is that all right with you guys?
One quick one.
Yeah.
She hasn't got a mic. There's 100 of you. Is that all right with you guys if she's mic-less? Yeah! Come on. Don't be afraid. Don't worry. But go for it.
Thank you. I set up ADCAN about 5 years ago now. I looked at Ez because he entered the first year and is now one of our esteemed judges. So we've known each other quite a long time now. So ADCAN is a film and animation competition. We work with charities every year to develop briefs for short content that they need, so 30 or 60-second films. And this year, actually, we opened that up. We look for emerging talent like yourselves to answer these briefs, enter them, and then the work is judged by the best in our business. So production companies like Nexus, Rattling Stick, Partisan, PsyOp, Unanimous Content, who have I forgotten, Park Pictures, Vice. So we pull in all of the big guns and they select people's work, and then we take the winners to LA to 2 days of winners' workshops in Hollywood and have some extensive workshops here too, and mentoring. And it's basically a great way to get a foot in the door. So for the right people, the talented people, whatever background or experience you have, to get in front of the folk that can make a difference in your career, all because you've done something awesome for charity. So it's meant to be this massive circle of benefit that I suspect we'll talk about across all of the topics today. That's I do ADCAN, and I'm also a creative type that I worked for Apple for a long time, and I do a number of different interactive arts projects. But the ADCAN is the thing that I do with great passion.
Okay, super. So round of applause, please, guys. Amazing. Yes, we're getting better at this. We're getting there. We're getting there. So, Israel, just introduce yourself as well.
Okay. Hello, guys. I'm Israel. I'm a filmmaker. I won ADCAN, the very first one, and I also am a creative type. I work in advertising as a copywriter, and literally my career basically started from like winning ADCAN. Before that, I was a runner, and I just kind of entered the competition thinking, oh, this is an opportunity to show my skills. And off the back of that, I just started making music videos and commercials, and then I moved into advertising so I can understand how, I guess, to come up with ideas and how to come up with ideas fast and what insights meant as well and how to talk to people. And yeah, now I do that on a daily basis. Currently, I work at a social goods ad agency, which is basically the whole aim is to change the world through advertising. Yeah, that's it.
Amazing. Yes, don't be afraid. It's all right. It's okay to clap, guys, all right? Okay, so since this whole session is about making films for greater good, what does making films for greater good mean to you?
I think it usually comes from a place of personal passion. So, you know, having the idea that you'd like to have a positive impact is something that I suspect a lot of people have. But the way to, in my experience, make great work is to follow the thing that you care deeply about, you know, whatever that is, and then align yourself with organizations or other people that are also passionate about that. So you're telling a story from a place of genuine interest and passion.
Okay, super.
Well, I think you kind of said what I would say. But, I think it's about telling people stories that kind of don't get a chance to be told. So, and that comes from actually actually digging in and telling your own stories, and that's the most important thing, because you might think that you know your story's been told 100 different times or a million times, but actually how you would tell it hasn't been done. So by actually telling the most honest story, you are doing good.
Okay. A key thing that you said there is telling people stories who traditionally don't have the chance to tell their stories. What barriers do you think are in place which is stopping people from telling these stories, and how do you think things can improve in this area?
I think the barriers sometimes is kind of self-imposed. So you tend to think that like your ideas aren't great, or you feel like, again, like I was saying, it's just that you've heard your story before. But actually, the way you see the world, no one else sees it that way. So it's about understanding and believing in your gut instinct that, like, you know, that you should talk about it. And if you start that conversation, other people will kind of put in their ideas, and you will be able to kind of create a new perspective. And that new perspective is going to open up a whole conversation about whatever topic you're talking about.
Okay.
It's also finding people to support you in it. You know, whether you're the person experiencing the inequality or the person experiencing the problem that needs solved, or whether you're the person that can relate to that and wants to tell the story. It's hard to do it on your own, and frankly, you can't, can you?
No,
you know,
you
it's
can't.
like you've got to find your people, and whether that's a creative collaborator or you know, a organization that you can partner with, or even just someone that you can talk to about it, that kind of gives like a mentor type situation. You know, then you can just take the first step, and then, you know, then the next one and the next one, because it's so overwhelming taking on a project, you know, whatever scale, and it continues to be.
Okay. What would you say is, what tips would you give to the audience then? Because you started ADCAN, a global campaign, and projects and products. So what advice would you give to the audience to getting people to rally on a project? We
literally asked everyone that we wanted for help. So we wrote a list of like the production companies that we thought this would be amazing. You know, imagine if they'd support this. And we went and we had a meeting and we just asked, and most of them said yes. We ran ADCAN on a kind of skill swap, so it's harder to get money out of people generally, but getting people helping people understand your idea first, and then understanding what the part that they can contribute to. So matching that up in a sensible way. You know, you're a very experienced filmmaking person, so why don't you judge the films? You know, you don't ask them to sort out the catering. You know.
You got hustle and bustle.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It's total hustle. It's total hustle.
I feel like across a lot of industries, in terms of keeping that financial element, especially in the social space, and
Yeah.
ADCAN's a social enterprise. So
Yeah.
how do you balance doing good and keeping the lights on for your organisation?
It's a lot of enrolling people in our idea, and just being out there in the world, caring deeply about what we do, because that's totally infectious, isn't it?
Definitely.
You know, like when you meet somebody that talks with great passion about like sharpening pencils, you're like, oh yeah, I want to go home and sharpen some pencils. You know, it's like you just need, if you care, if you can show how committed you are to an idea,
People gravitate.
and also impact. You know, it got easier and easier to get people involved, because you know, once it had happened once, then you know, you have people like Ez who say, yeah, this was great, and you know, us going, wow, it was like the human impact was great, just in terms of the group of people that you're working with. You see how all of us felt better and then felt more confident to go on and do
Okay,
do
so
more.
there's the energy that comes
Yeah,
from
it's
the
energy.
projects. Okay.
It's
So-
total energy.
Israel,
Yes.
what would you say has been the most impactful project or film that you've worked on? And so you've seen a problem and you've made this content, and what was the outcome?
Oh, that's quite difficult.
Yeah, that's a hard
I
one.
still haven't made it,
Yeah.
and I don't think I'll know when I made it. But I think, like for example, I just did a project recently, and what the greatest impact that it's had is actually had people talking about it, and people sharing it and enjoying it for you know, just purely entertainment value, and that in itself is good because it was for an audience that don't really get good entertainment.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that was an achievement, but I don't think that's something that like has changed anything yet.
Okay.
But it's the first step.
First step.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I just want to see, just to get a feel of what the audience feels as well. So do you guys believe you could watch a film and then after that you're so socially driven to do something great? Have you experienced that? So if you have, put your hands up, and if you haven't, I guess keep your hands down. So I feel like there's, you know, people genuinely believe that film can impact people.
Yeah.
Is there any examples of films or piece of content or campaigns you've watched that have made you get up and do something great?
I've been really inspired by Grayson Perry for, you know, forever.
Okay.
So actually all of his work, more his TV work than his art in isolation, because he approaches any new collection of people with no judgment. You know, and often he's going into situations that he's unfamiliar with, and I think that is, I mean, that's absolute gold if you want to communicate people's stories. You know, so for me, more than it making me give money to an organisation or, you know, sign up to something, watching the way that he empathises with people has been a real inspiration for the way that we run ADCAN.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. Israel, any specific pieces of any films you've watched and just been emotionally moved and be like, wow, I need to do something, I need to change?
I think there's, well, it's just loud. Currently, I've been working on a project for
Move that.
yeah. So I've currently been working on a project called Claws Out for Trans, and this is a project that I've been helping 2 young creatives on, and that it's been an exciting project. Although I haven't had like full ownership of it, I've been helping them build it, and the exciting part about it is what they saw was there's a problem, and that's transphobia, and how to tackle that they thought was by creating a nail brand with a really influential trans woman. And the whole aim is to kind of like, okay, cool, we want to tackle like transphobia, but what we have to do is tackle it in small bits. And so what their first step is to tackle the lack of like actual representation within emojis, trans people. And they're doing that using nails, and I thought that was like really awesome. It's a sick idea. And what and I could tell you the concept, and the concept is basically each year they release new emojis, and each year trans community have been trying to get a trans flag in that emoji chain, but they keep getting denied each year, but they keep putting in like random emojis like the poop emoji or the crab emoji or that, you know.
Crowd loves the
or the seems. And this year they said no and replaced it with a lobster emoji.
Okay.
And so what they wanted to do is they've hijacked the lobster emoji because it's a gendermorph. It's both male and female. And so what I really loved is this like, it's a smart idea. It's like you see something in that and you take it and you use that to tell greater story. And it's gotten like great traction, and people are like advocately supporting, and it could actually change.
That's awesome.
It could change the actual setup now. So by next year, we could have a trans flag on the emojis.
Okay, amazing.
Look
That's
out for
amazing.
that, yeah.
So with those initial ideas, how do you convince people to trust you to deliver them? So going to someone, I'm going to make an emoji and I'm going to transform the way people think. What tips would you give for getting people on board with socially driven ideas and films?
I think Deborah said it first, is finding people that understand it and get it like you, and then they will help you, and it will get bigger, and there'll be like a force behind you to kind of push it. And then the next step is putting it out into places that so it can be seen. And I think for a lot of, like, from a filmmaker's perspective, a lot of filmmakers make stuff for themselves, or, you know, there's a kind of self-indulgence to it all, but you need to understand the audience that you're going to be talking to. So making the film so that it's easily kind of digestible for the person that's going to be watching it is really important, and that's going to help like push the I guess the campaign further, because people will see it and will understand it and will want to push forward. It's just about making people understand it. I think the greatest analogy I was given is like, does anyone here like rap? Yeah?
Does anyone in here like rap?
Okay, there's like mumble rappers, and then there's like really clear rappers. So mumble rappers have like a small fan base because only a certain audience listen to them. But the clear rappers have got like a greater audience. So as long as you're clear with what you're saying,
That's great.
people will listen.
Okay, so for the both of you then, we've talked of some great examples of some success stories, but what's been some dark moments or some challenges where, for instance, you might have worked on a campaign and it's been released and people have been like, what is this? This doesn't connect, this isn't real, it's not authentic. So talk through that.
Would you want to-
Yeah, go for it.
So last year, the end of last year, I worked on a campaign for knife crime, and it was with the mayor of London, and that was the most difficult thing because I grew up with a lot of my friends getting stabbed, and I thought, all right, cool, I can make a great change, and I can like talk to people, but I realized that I couldn't because there's a process, and the process is way beyond me, and there's like a big machine of like corporations and politics involved. And I felt like that was like the worst time for me because I felt my hands were tied. And whatever I made, I knew that it wasn't going to feel as authentic as it could be. And that to this day is still my, like, I guess, my shame that I wish I could do more. Yeah,
but you felt that shame, and it wasn't actually your shame.
No.
And because you didn't just, oh well, let's just brush it under the carpet. I suspect you're going to come back to that issue.
Oh, definitely.
From another direction, where you can talk from a place of absolute truth, and you may not have had the to do that had you not been through that shit show, frankly.
Yeah, very much so. I think that was an important lesson as well. I was like 24, 23, going into like these big meetings and like big politicians talking. I realized I was like, right, they're not listening, they're not getting it, but what they are listening to is like what's going to be good for this week's topic of conversation for politics, and you know, it's quite hard as well for advertising to actually make a big change. And, you know, it's like you have to start incrementally. You have to, you know, small wins. And I didn't realize that. I just wanted to make a change. I was like, yeah, I'll come in and I'll say my ideas and they'll be like, great, Israel. I think that's not how it works.
Okay. So, knowing what you've been through, what would you do differently now to avoid that situation? Would you still take the gig, or would you just have a different approach?
I think it's important to take the gig, because if I wasn't involved in that, I think I could imagine where it could have been.
Yeah.
So, like, small wins.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, it's not the most amazing thing in the world, and it didn't speak to everyone that I wanted it to speak to, but it probably, some kid somewhere might have seen it and gone, right, cool, so today I'm not going to take my knife out. So it's about seeing these opportunities, being involved in them, putting your energy in there, and, you know, that minor change that you make is going to be big.
Okay.
And part of you has to kind of understand the system, and it's difficult to understand the system without being at the table.
Yeah, exactly.
So even when the system's messed up, at least if you've been present in it, you can go, okay, well, they're not going to listen to that, so we need to find a back door, or we need to. So yeah, it's valuable.
That's very true. Yeah, understanding the system is really important, and then finessing it. Figuring out a way to finesse that system, and always coming at it like with facts, and it's always very difficult as well. From coming from a filmmaker background, I'm always passionate about whatever I do. So you have to understand, you have to kind of dissociate passion and like facts and
that's a hard one.
Yeah, that's very hard, but I think it's important to know that, and it's important to kind of like. For any change to be made, you have to back it up with a lot of facts and a lot of like proof of concept. So, you know, like you have to go out and experiment yourself and do your own research, and then bring that in with your knowledge to them, and they'll be able to kind of look at that and go, wow, okay, cool, all right, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. So, a question for you, Deborah. So through your platform ADCAN, you've got opportunities for filmmakers to answer briefs from charities, and I'm guessing you get a lot of submissions. So how do you pick who's right to tell this story?
So they actually make the work and then enter the finished work. So it's a chance to make something. And the winning pieces of work, I mean, it varies from brief to brief, but usually it catches you. So whether that's through a unique perspective or humour. I mean, it's amazing how often humour works in charity advertising. I guess, you know, the whole idea of, you know, being emotionally exposed, and like laughter exposes you, doesn't it? And then you can like punch in there with like some hard, you know, gritty facts. And that works so well. So we're interested in whatever work communicates the you know, the problem most effectively. Sometimes it's about awareness, you know, sometimes it's more, sometimes you need something really small. There's been something quite interesting.
Ladies and gentlemen, Teddy Nygh.
Aha! Teddy's here.
We've got a surprise guest for you guys all today.
Not a surprise.
Well, welcome, Teddy.
Thank you.
We're going to introduce Teddy shortly, but yeah, just...
Well, one thing I am more of an observation. I've done some work with The Girl Effect, who they have a platform called Springster, which is a mobile platform that is available. It's a secure mobile platform available to girls in, I think, 72 countries. And it's kind of like a teen magazine, but it delivers some seriously important information about health and education, and you know, to these girls. And it struck me, so when the first brief I worked on with them was just to change the eating habits of girls in Indonesia at breakfast time. So it's like this tiny little thing. And it's the impact that tiny little thing can have on millions of girls' lives and then their communities' lives is huge. So sometimes it's like, it's almost, you know, it's tempting to to carry the ego off, like, I want to go in and do the big thing, but to
little
actually,
things.
create change. Like, it can be the smallest little, instead of eating this, eat this, and then their day is transformed and their nutrition is transformed, which means they can concentrate in school, and, you know, and their overall health is better. And, you know, it's really, so like those tiny little things, if you can communicate them in an effective way, it can make a massive, from a storytelling point, it can make a massive difference.
So I'm gonna build on that shortly, but we're just gonna introduce Teddy. So just get a round of applause for Teddy. Actually, no round of applause. Teddy's late, so you know,
Teddy's late,
I've got a good reason. So
He's got a good story that he's going to tell us of why he's late. But we're going to focus on amazing work he's done in the social space. So Teddy's a filmmaker and he works with UK Fully Focused.
Yeah, so UK is just the bit we put at the front for our @ so it's Fully Focused.
Okay, Fully Focused. Okay.
Is the organisation, yeah.
So just tell us a bit about. I've watched one of your films, Drawn Out.
Oh, cool.
So just tell us a bit about your journey and the films you make and why you make them.
So the journey of Fully Focused. Where do you want me to start? Like near the beginning?
The beginning will be a good place.
Oh, it's a long way back. Shout out the Fully Focused team in the building. Oh, you're here.
Fully Focused team, are you here? Yeah. Woo! Come on.
Make some noise. I know this
Celebrate.
But you know. Yeah. So the reason that I wanted to set up Fully Focused was running as a production company from around 2005, and that was just me, really, just doing stuff that I wanted to do, picking up a camera for the first time in 2004. And but I was also working with young people at the same time. But I came to working with young people first through youth work in Hackney, on the streets of Hackney, with somebody that I knew when I was young. And I told her that I wanted to get involved, and she was like, come work with me. Because I went through my own experiences as a young boy growing up in London. So I knew that there was things I'd been through, and I knew something that had helped me was drama. It gave me focus, it gave me discipline. It's where the word Fully Focused comes from, because it taught me to be that. So although I was really enjoying the kind of outreach on the street, working with some of the young people that were caught up in the worst scenarios, I wanted to do more than just conversation, and I knew drama was a tool to do that. So that work started, and I stopped acting and I picked up a camera and I started working on my first documentary. But it was just a camcorder, and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to use it. I just knew about being in the moment from what I'd learnt from acting. And I started to make... My friend came to my house with a Lord of the Mics DVD, and it's the first time I'd seen people from our culture in a DVD, because before that it was always, you'd get tape packs, which you lot are probably all too young to ever have had, or CD packs from the rave, and you'd listen to people from that. And that was even pre-grime days. I'm talking garage and jungle days. So to see them on the screen, it was like, wow, okay. But at the same time, I was like, this is great. This is East London. I'm from North, and I know a lot of talent in North, so we should make something for North. Started that. Camera and all the footage got stolen. So I had to make a decision. What do I do? Is this a sign telling me not to do this, or is it a sign telling me to change the direction in which I'm doing it? And it was in that moment, I think, it kind of defined everything that I would do next, because what I realized was, when you pick up a camera, for me anyway, personally, you have a responsibility, because the messages that you put out, they're set in stone forever. You can look them up in 100 years' time, and you're still, it's set there. So I felt like I could say something much more powerful with this film, and I could make it bigger and better than the first time round, which was more just a North London bang bang kill your gang type of DVD. So it wasn't really putting out anything positive first time round. So I saw that as a divine intervention and carried that forward. And everything I learnt through that project, probably 5 years it took to get it onto the shelves of HMV, which was like my most biggest achievement. Did it sell units? No, not really, but it was nice that people would go in and take a photo, and I'd be like, oh shit. And we did it with a CD and DVD, so it was on the shelves. So that was a moment. But what I learned through all that process, and I was still working with young people all this time, was how to get into film festivals, how to get your own press, how to edit, all the things that I didn't know before. So taking all of that and continually working with organisations and seeing how projects would be cut short with young people so often, especially once you'd built up trust and you'd built up development, then to have the project just come to a sudden abrupt end, sometimes not even having the opportunity to say goodbye to these young people that you'd built up such a strong kind of bond with. Because of child protection, then you can't take their number. And I just thought, you know what, we need to set up our own thing that we have more control over, that we can take the learnings from, and that we can build sustainability and stability with, so that no matter what people are going through, they can always come back, and we're not kind of bound by the box ticking of funding. We don't have to use the acronyms. We don't have to pick people because they fit in a box. I just reached out to young people I'd known from projects and said, look, this is the vision. This is what I'm wanting to achieve. I want you lot to be involved, and one day I want you to be running the organisation. Are you down? I showed them a clip of something I was working on at the time, which was a new music documentary called The Truth. The first one that took me 5 years was called Clash of the Tight Ones, where opinions clash and the rhymes are tight. It's never actually been released publicly, so we've got a new music doc coming out. Premiere is next Friday at the Base Culture exhibition, closing of the exhibition. And maybe we'll release that one online, because it's before the SBTV times. It was more like the Risky Road kind of those days. Anyway, all of that aside, ultimately what I wanted to do was build this organisation. And so in 2011, some of those same young people that came together with me are in the organisation now. One of them is managing our channel, which is called MYM. So we have a YouTube channel as well. That grew from nothing. MYM stands for Million Youth Media, and that channel personifies everything we learned. So we weren't able to make the music documentary that I first told the team about, called The Truth, because what happened was we were in the middle of trying to raise some money to make it. At this stage, we had no money. We were just meeting every week, and there was no funding in place, which meant there was no restrictions. And 8 years later, even though now we generate our own funding through commissions and we're able to access funding, we've managed to keep a structure that allows us to be organic and inclusive, which is what's most important to me. Inclusivity, meaning everybody gets ownership of the projects that we make, learn skills, get paid. So what did happen at that point was the killing of Mark Duggan. So me being growing up near Tottenham, I knew people that were talking about the fact that at that time, when it first happened, for those of you who don't know, as a young mixed-race male was shot and killed by the police, August the 4th, 2011, I think it was, in Tottenham, Ferry Lane. But the first report came out that he shot at the police. And actually it turned out to be a policeman's bullet lodged in the other policeman's radio. So from that starting point, and the fact that there's 19 people aged 16 to 25 in the room feeling like, hold on, why are we getting the blame? We weren't even out there. We decided to go out and make this documentary called Riot from Wrong. And that kind of blueprinted our way of working going forward, but we never got to get back to that documentary. But yeah, from there, MYM was born, Riot from Wrong. We toured the country, 115 screenings all around the world. We went to Ferguson, we went to New York, Manhattan. We've been to other countries like Poland, Ireland, Turkey, Istanbul, places where there are similar things that have happened, opened up so many conversations for the young team, getting to explore new countries for us to go together. All of that stuff was amazing. And then, yeah, long story short, because it is a long story,
It's a journey.
we went from being volunteers, basically, to now we have our own office. We have a staff team of 8, which is made up of 50%, 60% of the young team. Like I said, we have the channel MYM managed by one of the original members. Also, the panel of MYM to curate new content that comes in from young filmmakers, like some of you guys in the audience, is 11 of the young team. So they vote the content through based on our guidelines. Then FF members, there's 35 of them now, aged 16 to 25. They also create content for the channel. Then the commissions that we get, which can range from people like Arsenal, which was drawn out, to Network Rail, to charities, which I know there's talk about Film for Good today. they also can go on the channel, which means they reach their target audience. And so the channel's gone from no subscribers and just having the trailer for Right From Wrong on it as kind of holding page to a soft launch in August 2014, where it took us what felt like forever to get our first 5,000 subscribers. And now I think it's 167,000 subscribers and 23 million views on our content. A lot of that content made entirely by people probably under the age of 25, and the content that might be directed by me is made with me and the team.
Okay.
So that's the story in a big nutshell.
Okay, amazing. So there's a lot of opportunities for you guys involved in that story. So if you want to go Poland and travel the world with these guys, make sure you seize that. But I'm going to ask you another question, but I'm going to just fly back to you guys shortly. I just want to talk about authenticity, because a lot of Teddy's work, I'm guessing you work with young people, and these people might directly be impacted by the stories that you're telling. But also with you guys, how important do you feel like it is to cast people who've actually gone through the issues? Or do you believe, in terms of performers and actors, should it just be whoever can do the best job? Or how do you strike that balance?
It's so brief dependent, isn't it? But I believe you don't have, as an actor, you don't have to have been through it to communicate it in a wonderful, emotive way. And actually, acting, well, you'll know from your experience, you know, you could be a phenomenally emotional human being, but you get in front of a camera and you're like this. You know, so actually, generally, you just want to communicate the story in the most effective way. So an actor may be the right person in that instance. With what you know, we have new charity partners every year. So often the topic is brand new to me, or brand new to the people receiving the briefs, the filmmakers or the animators. So authenticity is phenomenally important, because it's not generally my story. So finding a way for you know, as the maker, to connect with the story in a way that is yours is essential, but also taking the research really, really seriously, and pulling in contributors and people that really understand the story, or the message, or the need.
Okay.
Yeah, authenticity, phenomenally important.
What about yourself?
I think Deborah's just explained that, but it's about getting people who have lived the life or whatever, or have experienced the topic that you are about to talk about, and bringing them in from the very start and involving them in the script. So like currently, the film that I just did, I was working with a music artist who wasn't involved in the development of the script at all, but we researched his life as if, like, you know, it was our life. Like, we went through in detail about what he does and what things that he you know, grew up doing, and then found out more information from his friends just to build it in. And then when he got involved in it, he started adding bits as well. It's important to have the collaborative process to be able to change it as you go along and not be so rigid. And that's what makes what keeps the authenticity going. Like, because you don't want to have this one perspective on it. And that's when you lose authenticity, because you alone haven't lived, you know, those many lives.
Yeah. Okay.
Each person's perspective can add to it.
Okay, so back to you, Teddy. So on the topic of authenticity, and you're making quite hard-hitting films, and even for yourselves as well, when you're working, how do you balance between entertainment and educating? So I've watched one of Teddy's films, Drawn Out, and it was it was an intense watch. From your perspective as a director, what did you want the audience to feel?
Drawn Out was not a unique one, because it's a process we have undertaken before, like with another film called Deep It. So the process with that one was, we met with someone at Arsenal called Jack, Arsenal do so much work in the community that people might not realise, but they do really a lot out in the States, but then also in the building, which they have a hub for, and lots of indoor pitches and stuff like that. And then Shorden from Ambitious Academy, the three of us had a meeting, and Shorden brought along some of the boys from an estate that he works on. And the whole idea was that these boys specifically, they weren't involved in any of the football stuff anymore, and they known them for years and felt they just need something to get involved in. They've got talent, they've got aspirations, they don't want to be stuck in what they're stuck in. So what could that be? And then we said, look, we did a project very similar to this, which was Deep It. Deep It was with Purcell Ascot and Javan Wade. It was long before Shira, so it's actually what inspired Rapman to cast them in Shiro's story.
I like the plug there. I like the,
Yeah, well, stuff comes from places. We all inspire each other. But yeah, so what happened then, with Deep It was young people from youth offending in West London that we worked with over workshops over, I think, maybe 8 months. And then they took roles in the film and came behind the scenes. And that had its whole own story. With Drawn Out, it was similar, although it was with the boys. They used to come to the Arsenal hub, then we started just going to the estate. And the idea was that they would come up with the story, they would help to write the script, they would be involved behind the scenes, they would take roles. One of them took one of the lead roles. He'd never acted in anything in his life. So it was like a massive undertaking, just learning lines alone, but more knowing that you have to be there at 6:30 a.m. and you have to be there for the whole day until the day's over, and you can't dip out, you can't waver one little bit because it's the whole film. So it was a big learning experience for everyone involved. But the kind of motivation behind it, to answer that point, was everyone was fed up of programs like Gangland that kind of glorify the difficulties that are out there and don't show the other side of all the people that have got out, or the people that are teaching the others and have aspirations, and that us might be stuck in it but don't really want to be stuck in it. It made it kind of look more like a movie, which wasn't helpful to anyone that's in it. So they said, we want to make something that kind of shows the real side of life. And so for us then, it was very important that it did feel real, and that it was hard hitting, but that it was full of hope. It was full of alternatives. Every kind of raw situation that was in the film, we answered with conversation and with messaging and with an alternative view. So then there's a specific scene in the film that deals with domestic violence. We decided to shoot that in one take because we didn't want to glorify it. We didn't want to have close-ups. We didn't want to have blood, but we wanted it to feel like you were there and that you couldn't look away, because domestic violence is something that is behind closed doors and people want to avoid it. So while it was a really difficult one for Arsenal, who's a PG organisation, and for other people that were involved similarly, I felt like we have to treat it in the kind of horrible way that it is, because if you're experiencing something like that, it's horrible. So I guess with that film, it was important for us that it had its rawness, but it had hope, and it had alternative views, and it had messaging that people could take away.
Okay. And on that point as well, you mentioned the fact that working with organisations and institutions that might be a bit PG, has there been a time where you've had to walk away from a project because it doesn't align with your artistic integrity?
You know what, thankfully we haven't had that yet, have we? We always bring every project around the table, and obviously there's always like 20 of us sitting around that table every week, so we're always able to discuss how we're going to approach this one, and we haven't had something that has gone against our beliefs as yet. And if we do, then we'll have to discuss, is there still a way to use it as a vessel to have a message, or do we need to say, actually, this just isn't a fit for us? So, but working with charities, working with, so many of the films we've done, they are working with a massive organisation like Network Rail or whoever it is, or a big charity that's a national charity, and they have very specific not just messaging, but guidelines that you have to abide by. We did 2 films, Nadia and Eviction. Nadia's been our most highly viewed film. It's got 5 million views. We never thought that would happen. If anything, we thought it'd be Eviction, because Eviction had Kayode Ayumi, it had Adam Deacon, it had Vujanik, it had Hamza, it had Nick Nevin, it had Michelle. It had like Natalie Gamedi. It had all these different people that are doing all this stuff. But actually, Nadia had good people too. But the point is that both of those films, they're about the law and your legal entitlements if you become homeless under 16, or if you go from being homeless to renting, and how many traps there are in that, and then ending up being homeless again because of not being able to pay rent. So Eviction dealt with that. Nadia was under 18. And the legal research we had, it was like this. It was 2 for each film. It was 2 documents like that had to go through Barristers Chambers policy of Centrepoint, a charity we worked with. The funding came from the Legal Education Foundation, so it was very specific to law. Yet we still had to take all of that, make an engaging drama that would reach people so that they could access those messages, and that it didn't feel like boring law. This law says that if you know, so
make it actually interesting to watch.
Yeah. So the challenges are immense, but I don't think that those challenges change with anything you do, because if you're working for a broadcaster or if you're working for a studio, they're going to put the same stuff on you, that you're going to have to hit certain things, and an executive producer can come along at any time and say, actually, you know, learning to adapt to those you work with is important, and choosing your battles, I think, because there may be, as director, there may be something that you're like, no, you know what, you've got to put your foot down and fight for that, because you know that's what it needs. And then there are other things that you've got to adapt to allow the project to work.
Okay, amazing. I'm gonna ask another question, but I just want to get a feel of what the audience actually does. So how many directors do we have in the audience? Okay, quite a few. Actors? So there's 3 actors and there's like 10 directors.
That's
so
good. It's usually the other way around. What about writers?
Yeah.
Well, maybe some noise actually, because I feel like
I know
for
we
other
can't
people-
see you at the back.
So writers, make some noise, please.
Writers are the quietest.
The quiet ones. Okay, that makes sense. Directors, make some noise. No, directors. You're the directors. You
Come
gotta
on.
come on.
Very
Directors. Yeah. And then actors. Yeah, the actors. Great performance. I love it.
So who's in between? Producers?
Producers, yeah.
Yeah, the producers are the quiet ones. They deal with the money, just like.
Any editors in the building?
Yeah.
Holler at us. We always need editors
Yeah.
at Fully Focused.
Yo, Matt, you've got about 10 minutes, so why don't we do some audience questions?
Okay, amazing. Love that. Teamwork.
Makes the dream
So,
work.
questions from the audience. Any questions? Is there a roaming mic?
Take a seat.
Oh, cheers.
So anyone's got a question?
Thank you for your time. I basically work for like a football website, so it's not as sort of meaningful filmmaking as you guys sort of are doing full time. So my question was, in my spare time, how do I maximize my spare time to create things on weekends? And I don't know if you guys had any experience of sort of doing other jobs that maybe not as artistically as integral as what you're talking about, and then how you do it in your spare time, if that makes sense, or do you even just save and plan to take a year off, or do you do it in the evenings? Or I was just thinking, like, logistically, how you try and find time to do meaningful artistic work, and you've got to pay the bills.
That is actually my life. ADCAN is still, even though we're 5 years in, it's still a second project. Technically it's a side hustle, just a really bloody big one. So I work on other projects as well. I think most people do. I mean, you know, if you're a director, often you're working on your feature or your short, and you're also making ads and music videos, and they're all just projects, you know. So you may have a 5-day-a-week job. Consider going down to 4 days, or work in the evenings. You know, we spend our evenings and weekends on ADCAN regularly, you know. But it's just, you have to find a story or a thing that you care deeply about enough to want to spend your evenings on it, you know, and then just start.
Pour lots of sickies as well, just in case.
I think you're already doing it though as well, because you're doing a job that's related to what you want to do. So I think that's probably one of the key things that you can do, whatever the path is, whether you're acting, directing, editing, try and get into work that's related, so you feel like you're still working towards living your dream, and you're still learning, and everything you're taking from that job you can put into the other job. And that's so important, especially for actors, because acting is harder to create your own work. It's easier nowadays, but it's still harder than producing, directing, where you can just get a team together and sell that product rather than yourself. So across all of those, the key, I think, is finding stuff that you can do, and then just never ever giving up. I'm sure all of us on this panel have been doing it for however long now, but we still got such a long way to go, and there's still so many things that we want to achieve. And I think that drive is what keeps you going forever, and keep challenging yourself, taking risks, do the stuff that scares you. You know, those are all important.
There's also, like, you know, we've all been part of ways of taking that first step. So, you know, like there's getting involved in a specific project with you guys, or maybe one of the ADCAN briefs happens to be about something you care deeply about, you know, and then it's kind of, it's less broad. It's kind of, here's the little window to start on. And then you can start to find people that are also interested in
exactly.
you know, it's not so big.
Get a team, get a little team. Every single person who's been successful, whether it's an artist like Stormzy, for example, his team is strong. He's got a massive team. Or if it's, you know, a director or whoever, everybody's got a team, and that's really important. You're only as strong as the people around you.
I think everyone said it. All I would say is share your ideas with other people. I think that's the most important thing, because then the ideas get bigger, other people get involved, and they have an invested interest to make those ideas. So if you get other people invested in it, then it's going to be made.
Any other questions? Just shout.
Yeah, thank you very much. A lot of what you're saying is really chiming with like my personal development as a filmmaker, making films that have kind of socially driven messages, ethical dimensions to them. What we find we need is investment. We need to be meeting these people. We need to be getting in the room with these charities. We need to basically be saying to them, look, you've got the money. You have a message you want put out there. We have a way of making that message happen. Is there a strategy? Are there ways of getting your foot in the door? Like, how do we go in with our creative idea and say, we want your money, let's make this work?
A lot of times charities don't have the money.
I know.
That's the problem as well. So what you tend to do is, so like when we did, when I first did ADCAN, I did it with my own money because I just really liked the idea. I wanted to just make the film, and it so happened to, like, the film did really well. But what I did was, when I was thinking about making that film, is I thought, okay, cool, I could be making it for specifically for this charity, or I could just make a really good film that could work really well without if I'd not had that charity.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me expand then. Beyond charities, the people who have the money, the people
Okay.
who are looking to invest.
Well, again, that's all down to like what kind of stories you want to tell. So if
Yeah,
you,
there's actually quite a lot of. I mean, it's hard and we're terrible at it. But maybe you're better at this.
This guy's the man you need to speak to.
Yeah,
Let's get to
maybe
it.
maybe you should take this one.
Well, I would just say there's two questions: the charities and the others. Like Esrael was saying, charity, you have to sometimes you got to find just that one charity first, and maybe even make something for them for free to get in the door, and then you can say, we've worked with this person, and then they could recommend you to somebody else. So that start might be about that. Getting commissioned work is finding a way to align what you do with what other people need, but not necessarily changing what you do for what other people need, because then you might not be doing what you really want to do. So you just got to start with something somewhere, and often that means for free, or even putting your own money into it to get that on the table and get that seen, and then get a chain from there. And be prepared to work really, really hard at it and not give up and keep going, because it does take a long time, and it takes a lot of determination. It takes a lot of times where you want to give up, where you think, what is this all about? Is it even worth it? Times where you get more grey hairs, times where you feel like life is going to end. There's, you know, it gets hard. It gets hard. It's not a golden path, but it's possible.
There's one tip maybe. So there are organisations more in America than here, like Patagonia. So I mean, people with money. So Patagonia, Tom's Shoes, Lush is actually a global. An ethical element to their business plan. So it's not just like, oh, there's the kind of, 10 grand social responsibility fund. They actually have built it into the story of their business. So if you can research those B Corps, if you look at them, and then if any of them align with what you care about in the way that you're talking about, then find an in. and build a relationship and make some content and then take it to them and then just keep at it. But it has to be authentic.
One other thing I'd say is don't shy away from advertising, because
Yeah.
actually they've got the money.
Yeah.
And if you have to do a project that, you know, they'll have the money. You just have to massage it your way to get something that you want out of it, or make the film that you might not be happy with, but then use the money that they've given you to make something else that's good. So you just have to see the positives from it.
And be tenacious and persistent.
Yeah.
Don't take no for an answer. If people don't email you back, it's probably just that they're busy. It's not that they don't care. They might not have even seen the email. The more you email people, the more you ring them. Turn up to their office. I've had so many stories. You know, the guy the other day, he knocked on doors and got a job. So it's up to you how much you want to go after one specific thing. I'm sure there's all stories across this panel of where we've really wanted something and we have kept on at that person, whoever that was, and eventually they said, all right.
Yeah.
Why not? Let's just do it. Okay, cool. We're going to move on to the next segment, which we're going to watch an amazing short film, which is part of the Screen Skills Short of the Month. So you're going to get a chance to watch a film, but round of applause for this amazing panel. So what I'm going to do is introduce the filmmakers to the stage. We've got Jess and Aaron, and they're just going to briefly introduce their film, and we're going to have a watch of it. Cool. So, Jess and Aaron, just briefly introduce your film. We don't want any spoilers, but just, you know, get the audience all riled up for this amazing... I haven't watched it myself, so I'm pretty excited. So, go for it.
It's a short observational documentary, so there was no interviewer interference or anything like that. It was solely watching the action, letting the action unfold in front of the camera, about this a small kind of family community that centres around this one tiny barbershop in Harrow and Wealdstone over in northwest London, and all these people, these friends and cousins and this 10-year-old son and the guy that runs the barbershop itself, all, you know, they congregate there, they cook for each other, they have Saturday football nights where they all come in waving their Tottenham flags, you know, and yelling their heads off, and it feels like this massive community that's full of love and loyalty between them that you wouldn't necessarily see or find if you weren't part of it. So that we wanted to document and to put out there and to let people know that these little places exist.
Okay. Yeah. You want to throw in a little producer, the money man?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he is my barber because I've only been living now in London for like 1 year because I came from Vienna. And pretty much in the first month when I arrived, I found this barber who's quite near to our uni, who was this guy called Baggio. And I don't know, we instantly hit it off. He's a really unique character, you could say. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm kind of sick at the moment.
No, so I'll just...
Yeah. So, like, I immediately... Because we had to make a film for a uni course, and it had to be a documentary. And I didn't know much about docs beforehand. But immediately when I saw him, I kind of knew this would be the one. Because he was such an interesting character that I wouldn't even have to do the talking.
Yeah.
Like, there wouldn't even have to be an interview. He is kind of the interviewee in the film, which is why we've made it an observational documentary.
Okay, amazing. So guess what we're going to do next? Watch the film. I was hoping it's going to go dark and then all time, but I guess we're going to wait.
Can we take a sit back at the front?
Yeah, go for it.